Have you ever wondered why some rooms feel like they are breathing with you, while others seem to press against your chest? What if the walls around you are not as solid as they appear, and the distance between you and the horizon is not a physical gap, but a mental one? Take a deep breath. Look around the space you are in right now. You think you are moving through a world that already exists. You believe you are a small passenger in a vast, indifferent universe. But what if I told you that you are not in the world is in you? What if your consciousness is the architect, and space is simply the blueprint it draws in real time? We have been taught that space is an empty container, a vacuum, a stage where things happen. But the deeper we look into the fabric of reality, the more we find that space is not empty at all. It is a mirror. It is a living geometry, shaped by the very act of you looking at it. Think about the way you feel when you are in love. The world expands. The streets seem wider. The sky feels like it's reaching down to touch you. Now, think about the way you feel when you are lost in grief or anxiety. The walls close in. The ceiling lowers. The world becomes a cage. Is this just a feeling? Or is your mind literally warping the geometry of your perceived reality? Quantum physics tells us that the observer and the observed are one. You cannot look at a subatomic particle without changing its behavior. But we rarely apply this truth to our daily lives. We act as if we are separate from the room we sit in. We act as if the space between us and our dreams is a physical distance that must be crossed with effort. But in the realm of pure consciousness, distance is an illusion. Geometry is the language of structure, and your mind is the ultimate structural engineer. Every thought you have is a vibration. Every belief you hold is a coordinate. Together, they create a grid, a lattice of perception that we call the world. If your internal grid is jagged, fractured, and small, your world will feel chaotic, broken, and restrictive. If your internal grid is harmonious, expansive, and aligned, the space around you begins to reflect that symmetry. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine a single point of light in total darkness. This is the beginning of all geometry, the bindu, the center of the circle. From this point, your consciousness extends a line, then another, then a shape. This is not just a metaphor. This is how your brain processes data to create the illusion of three-dimensional depth. But we have become so used to the shape of our lives that we have forgotten we are the ones drawing the lines. We wake up in the same mental box every day. We walk through the same corridors of thought. We wonder why our lives feel stagnant, while we continue to use the same geometric patterns to build our reality. Carl Jung once suggested that the symbols we see in our dreams are the blueprints of our psychic structure. When you see a square, a circle, or a cross in your inner world, you are looking at the foundation of your outer world. If the geometry of your soul is out of alignment, the space of your life will feel wrong. You might have the perfect job, the perfect house, the perfect partner, and yet you feel a sense of claustrophobia. That is because the space you are living in is not big enough for the truth of who you are. We are taught to change our lives by moving things around in space. We move to a new city. We buy new furniture. We change our clothes. But if you move to a new city without changing the geometry of your mind, you are simply placing the same old furniture in a different room. The trap is believing that the solution is out there. The secret is realizing that out there is a projection of in here. Think about the concept of sacred geometry. The ancients believed that certain shapes, the flower of life, the Sri Yantra, the Platonic solids were the fingerprints of God. They weren't just decorations. They were maps. They were meant to remind the human mind of its own inherent symmetry. When you look at a mandala, your brain begins to synchronize with its pattern. Your internal geometry begins to reorganize itself. You feel a sense of peace not because the image is pretty, but because your consciousness is recognizing its own true form. Now, look at the modern world. Look at the jagged edges of our cities, the gray boxes we live in, the flickering, rectangular screens that hold our attention for hours. We are living inside a geometry of distraction and fragmentation. Our minds are being forced into shapes that are not natural to the soul. Is it any wonder we feel anxious? Is it any wonder we feel disconnected? We are spiritual beings trapped in a cubicle-shaped reality. But the walls are thinner than you think. The space you perceive is a user interface, as scientist Donald Hoffman suggests. It's like the icons on a computer screen. A folder icon isn't actually a folder. It's a way to interact with complex data. Space and time are the icons of our consciousness. They are there to help us navigate, but they are not the truth of what is happening. The truth is that you are a field of infinite potentiality, momentarily folded into a specific shape. What shape are you choosing to be today? Are you a circle, inclusive and whole? Or are you a triangle, sharp and directed? Are you a sprawling, chaotic mess of lines? Or are you a focused beam of light? Most of us never choose. We inherit our geometry from our parents, our culture, and our traumas. We live in inherited space. We walk the paths that were cleared for us by others, never realizing that we have the power to clear new ones. Take a deep breath again. Feel the space behind your eyes. Feel the space between your thoughts. In that gap, there is no geometry. There is only the void. The void is the source of all shapes. It is the silence before the song. When you learn to sit in that silence, you start to see the wires of the simulation. You start to see how your judgments create walls, how your fears create ceilings, and how your love, your pure, unconditioned love, creates horizons that never end. Imagine your consciousness as a light source. When the light is dim, you can only see what is right in front of you. The space feels small. When you turn up the intensity of your awareness, the light reaches further. The room of your life expands. Suddenly, things that seemed impossible are now within your reach. Not because they moved closer, but because you expanded your field of influence. You literally made space for them. This is the secret of the masters. They don't try to change the world. They change the geometry of their own being. They become a vessel of a different shape. And the universe, being like water, has no choice but to fill the shape they provide. If you want a big life, you must become a big space. If you want a deep life, you must become a deep space. But how do we do this? How do we reshape the very fabric of our perception? It begins with the observer breath. It begins with the realization that you are not the person walking through the room. You are the consciousness in which the room and the person are both appearing. Imagine for a second that your eyes are not windows looking out, but projectors casting a beam. The light of your attention hits the void of the universe, and wherever it lands, it creates form. This isn't just a poetic thought. It is the fundamental mechanics of how you experience existence. Every time you label something, you draw a line in the sand. This is me. That is not me. This is good. That is bad. With every judgment, you are building the architecture of your reality. You are laying the bricks of your own prison, or the pillars of your own temple. Consider the geometry of a person who lives in constant fear. Their mental space is a series of sharp, defensive angles. They are always looking for the corner to hide in. Their consciousness is contracted, pulled inward like a fist. Because their inner space is so tight, the outer world reflects that tension. They see threats where there are only opportunities. They see closed doors where there are only mirrors. Now, consider the geometry of a person who lives in a state of wonder. Their mental space is spherical. It is open in all directions. They don't have walls because they don't feel the need to separate themselves from the experience. When you live in a spherical geometry, everything that happens to you is seen as happening for you. The distance between the problem and the solution vanishes. This is what the ancient Hermeticists meant when they said, "As above, so below, as within, so without." The shapes you hold in your heart are the shapes you will encounter in the streets. But we often forget that we are the architects. We walk through the halls of our own making and complain about the layout. We say, "Why is my life so narrow? Why do I keep hitting the same dead ends?" It is because you are still using the same old compass. You are still drawing the same circles of habit. To change your life, you cannot simply think positive. You must change the underlying geometry of your awareness. Think of your mind as a landscape. Over years of repetition, your thoughts have carved deep canyons into the earth. When it rains, when life happens, the water always flows into those same canyons. Those are your neural pathways. Those are your geometric ruts. Even if you want to go somewhere new, the gravity of your old geometry pulls you back into the same familiar streams of anxiety or lack. But here is the miracle. Consciousness is not static. It is plastic. You have the power to regrade the landscape of your soul. By becoming the observer, you step outside the canyons. You stand on the high peaks of your own awareness and look down at the map of your life. For the first time, you see that the walls you thought were solid are actually just shadows cast by old beliefs. You see that the mountains you couldn't climb are just small hills you magnified with your fear. Perspective is the most powerful tool in the geometry of consciousness. When you change the angle from which you view a problem, the problem literally changes its shape. A tragedy viewed from a higher dimension becomes a transformation. A loss viewed from the center of the circle becomes a rebalancing. This is not coping. This is the literal restructuring of your perceived universe. Scientists have found that when we meditate, the parietal lobe, the part of the brain that handles spatial orientation, begins to quiet down. The boundary between self and other starts to blur. The geometry of the ego begins to dissolve. And in that dissolution, people report a feeling of oneness. What does that actually mean? It means the lines you drew between yourself and the rest of the world have been erased. You are no longer a point in space. You are the space itself. And when you become the space, you realize that you cannot be harmed by anything that happens within it. A storm may pass through the sky, but the sky is not the storm. The sky remains, vast and untouched, holding the storm in its embrace. Most of us are trying to be better storms. We want to be more powerful, more successful, more impressive. But the path to true awakening is realizing you are the sky. When you shift your identity from the object to the space, the entire geometry of your suffering collapses. There is no here and there anymore. There is only the now. And the now has no edges. It has no limits. It is a geometry that is centered everywhere and circumference nowhere. Take a moment to feel that. Feel the space in the room again. But this time, don't look at the objects. Look at the space between the objects. That emptiness is not nothing. It is a field of pure potential. It is the canvas on which your life is being painted. And you are the one holding the brush. Why have you been painting such small, cramped pictures? Why have you been afraid to use the whole canvas? Perhaps it's because no one ever told you that the canvas was yours to begin with. We were told to stay within the lines. We were told that the world has rules we must follow. But the only real rules are the ones dictated by the geometry of your own frequency. If you resonate at the frequency of lack, the universe will provide a geometry of scarcity. It will give you just enough to survive, but never enough to thrive. If you resonate at the frequency of abundance, the universe unfolds into a geometry of infinite expansion. Opportunities appear out of nowhere. Connections form effortlessly. The space of your life becomes fertile ground. This isn't magic. It's alignment. It is the resonance between the architect and the blueprint. But how do we change our frequency? We do it by looking at our shadow geometry. Every light casts a shadow, and every conscious belief has an unconscious counterpart. You might say, I want to be free. But deep in the basement of your psyche, there is a geometry of safety that is built on being small. Your unconscious mind believes that if you stay in the box, you won't get hurt. So every time you try to expand, your own internal walls push back. You sabotage your success. You pick a fight with your partner. You get sick. You think the world is stopping you. But it's just your own geometry asserting its old shape. To break free, you must go into the dark rooms of your mind. You must take the light of your awareness into the places you have ignored. You must look at the jagged edges of your trauma and the broken lines of your self-worth. And you must realize that those shapes are not you. They are just patterns you picked up along the way. They are like old scaffolding on a building that is finished. You don't need them anymore. You can take them down. Imagine the relief of letting go of a shape you have been trying to maintain for 20 years. The perfect daughter shape. The successful businessman shape. The strong one shape. All of these are rigid geometries that prevent you from flowing with the river of life. When you let them go, you become fluid. You become like water, which takes the shape of whatever it enters, yet remains itself. Water doesn't fight the geometry of the cup. It fills it. And if the cup breaks, the water is still water. Are you ready to be the water? Are you ready to stop fighting the shapes of your life and start flowing through them? This is the true meaning of mastering reality. It is not about controlling what happens. It is about controlling the geometry through which you process what happens. If you can maintain a geometry of peace in the middle of a war, you are free. If you can maintain a geometry of love in the middle of betrayal, you are invincible. The world cannot touch a mind that refuses to be shaped by external pressure. You are the only one who decides the dimensions of your soul. So, look at the room of your current life. Is it cluttered? Is it dark? Is it small? Don't blame the room. Don't blame the people who gave you the furniture. Just start moving the walls. Start by imagining a version of yourself that is twice as large as you are now. Not physically, but energetically. See yourself filling the room you are in. See your awareness extending out into the street, into the city, into the atmosphere. How does it feel to be that big? Notice how the problems of your day start to look like tiny grains of sand from that height. Notice how the anxieties that were screaming at you now sound like distant whispers. This is your true scale. You were never meant to live in a box. You were meant to be the horizon. Look closer at the nature of a fractal. A fractal is a pattern that repeats itself at every scale, from the microscopic to the galactic. If you look at the vein of a leaf, you see the shape of a river system. If you look at the neurons in your brain, you see the structure of the cosmic web of galaxies. This is the geometry of consciousness in its most literal form. It means that the small, seemingly insignificant patterns of your daily life are actually blueprints for the massive, sweeping arcs of your destiny. The way you drink your tea is the way you live your life. The way you hold a grudge against a stranger is the way you hold back your own evolution. There are no small things in a fractal universe. Every tiny triangle of thought you build in your mind ripples outward, shaping the larger geometry of your experience. If you are constantly vibrating with not enough, you are creating a fractal of lack. That fractal will show up in your bank account, yes, but it will also show up in your relationships, your health, and even the way you breathe. You cannot have a big life built on small fractals. But this realization is not a burden. It is the ultimate key to freedom. It means you don't have to change the whole world to change your life. You only have to change the smallest repeating unit of your awareness. You only have to change the geometry of this moment. And this one. Think about the shape of the heart's electromagnetic field. Science has shown that the heart produces a torus, a donut-shaped field of energy that extends several feet outside the body. A torus is a perfect geometric form of self-sustainability. It is a shape where energy flows out of the center, circles around, and returns to the source. When you are in a state of gratitude, your heart's torus becomes coherent. It becomes symmetrical. It creates a geometric resonance that actually influences the people and the space around you. Have you ever walked into a room and felt an atmosphere before anyone even spoke? You were walking into someone's torus. You were stepping into their geometry. When we live purely from the head, our geometry is linear and sharp. The mind likes to divide, categorize, and exclude. It builds walls. It draws borders. It lives in a geometry of us versus them. But when we drop our awareness into the heart, the geometry shifts. The heart doesn't know how to build a wall. It only knows how to radiate. The heart's geometry is inclusive. It is a field of oneness made visible through energy. This is why, in the presence of a truly awakened being, space itself feels different. The air feels thicker with peace. The noise of the world seems to fade away. They are projecting a geometry of such high coherence that your own fractured field begins to entrain with theirs. They aren't doing anything. They are simply being a specific shape. And that shape is contagious. Take a deep breath and feel the torus of your own heart. Imagine it spinning, a golden, luminous flow of energy moving through you and around you. As you breathe, imagine this field expanding. It moves through the chair you are sitting on. It moves through the walls. It is reaching out to touch the trees, the ground, the sky. In this state, where is the boundary of you? Can you find the exact point where your space ends and the world's space begins? The truth is you can't. Because that boundary is a mental construct. It is a line you were taught to draw. The ancients called this the veil of Maya, the illusion of separation. They knew that we are all nodes in a single, infinite geometric web. When you pull a string on one side of the web, the entire structure feels the vibration. This is why your inner work is the most important work you will ever do for the planet. When you heal the geometry of your own soul, you are literally smoothing out the wrinkles in the fabric of humanity. You are providing a new blueprint for others to follow. Consider the 100th monkey effect. The idea that once a certain number of individuals adopt a new behavior or consciousness, it suddenly becomes accessible to the entire collective. This is a geometric phenomenon. It is a phase transition. It's like water reaching 211 degrees. It's still just hot water. But at 212 degrees, the geometry of the molecule shifts and it becomes steam. It transcends its previous limitations and takes to the sky. We are currently in a phase transition as a species. The old, rigid geometries of hierarchy, competition, and fear are breaking down. They are brittle. They cannot hold the weight of the new frequencies entering our world. That is why everything feels so chaotic right now. The old space is collapsing to make room for a new geometry. And you are the architects of this transition. But you cannot build the new world using the same old tools. You cannot create peace with a mind that is at war with itself. You cannot create abundance with a heart that feels empty. You must first become the geometry you wish to see. Think about the flower of life, that ancient symbol found in temples across the globe. It is a series of overlapping circles that form a perfect, harmonious pattern. It is the visual representation of how all life is interconnected. Every circle in the pattern is independent, yet every circle is essential to the whole. If you remove one circle, the pattern is broken. This is the geometry of community. When we realize that our space is shared, we stop trying to take from others to fill ourselves. We realize that if I diminish you, I am diminishing the very pattern that supports me. If I help you expand, I am expanding the field I live in. This is the logic of the soul. It is a higher mathematics that the ego cannot understand. The ego thinks that 1 + 1 = 2. But the soul knows that 1 + 1 = infinity. Because when two consciousnesses align, they create a third field that is greater than the sum of its parts. This is the master key. When you align your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions, you create a holy trinity of internal geometry. You become a laser beam instead of a flickering light bulb. A laser is simply light that has become coherent. All the waves are moving in the same direction, in the same rhythm. Because of that coherence, a laser can cut through steel, while a light bulb can barely cut through the dark. Your consciousness, when fragmented, is like that light bulb. You have 1,000 different desires, 1,000 different fears, and 1,000 different distractions. Your energy is scattered in every direction. You feel weak, not because you lack power, but because your geometry is incoherent. But the moment you bring your focus back to the center, the moment you align your inner space with your outer intent, you become a force of nature. The world literally gets out of your way. Not because it is afraid of you, but because it is drawn to your clarity. Clarity is the rarest geometry in the modern world. Most people are living in a static of noise. They are living in a room full of broken mirrors, seeing 1,000 distorted versions of themselves. To find the real you must stop looking in the mirrors. You must look at the source of the reflection. You must go back to that single point of light we talked about at the beginning. The bindu, the 0 point. In that point there is no distance. There is no time. There is only the I am. And from that I am, you can project any geometry you choose. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the projector of your circumstances. If you don't like the movie, don't try to change the screen. Change the film. Change the light. Change the lens. Reshape the geometry of your attention. Stop giving your space away to things that drain you. Stop letting the news, the social media algorithms, and the opinions of others draw the lines of your reality. Reclaim your architecture. Design a life that is wide enough for your dreams and deep enough for your spirit. And remember, space is not empty. It is full of everything you have yet to manifest. It is the womb of the universe. And your mind is the seed. Think of the life you are living as a grand, multidimensional labyrinth. For years, you have been running through its corridors, breathless and tired, searching for the exit. You have bumped into the same walls of disappointment. You have turned down the same dark alleys of self-doubt. But here is the secret that the labyrinth doesn't want you to know. The walls only exist because you are looking at them. The moment you stop running and sit down in the center of the path, the moment you become perfectly still, the walls begin to lose their density. In the geometry of the soul, stillness is the highest form of movement. When you are still, you are no longer vibrating at the frequency of the maze. You are vibrating at the frequency of the architect who designed it. From this center point, you realize that the labyrinth was never meant to be escaped. It was meant to be understood. It was a training ground for your consciousness, a series of geometric challenges designed to help you remember your own power. Every problem was just a line you needed to learn how to redraw. Every enemy was just a shadow cast by a part of yourself you hadn't yet integrated. As you sit in this stillness, you begin to see the holographic nature of your reality. In a hologram, every tiny part contains the information of the whole. This means that within your single, human mind, the entire geometry of the universe is encoded. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. This isn't just a comforting thought. It is a functional truth of your existence. If you contain the whole, then you have access to all the space there is. You are not limited to the room you are in, or the city you live in, or the body you inhabit. Your consciousness is a non-local field. It is everywhere at once. The only reason you feel here, and not there, is because of the way you have focused your geometric lens. You have collapsed the wave function of your life into this specific, narrow experience. But you can expand that lens at any time. Take a deep breath and feel your awareness begin to leak out of your skin. Don't just imagine it. Feel it. Feel the space behind you. Feel the space miles above you. Feel the silent, cold geometry of the stars. You are part of that. You are that. The distance between you and the furthest galaxy is exactly the same as the distance between two thoughts in your head. In the realm of pure consciousness, there is no far. There is only now. When you truly grasp this, the fear of missing out or running out of time simply evaporates. How can you run out of time when you are the one creating the sequence of events? How can you be late to a life that is unfolding within you? The stress we feel in modern life is the result of a geometric misalignment. We are trying to fit an infinite soul into a linear, finite schedule. We are trying to force a spherical consciousness to live in a world of square deadlines and rectangular expectations. Awakening is the process of reclaiming your roundness. It is returning to the circle, the Ouroboros, the beginning that is also the end. In this circular state, there is no getting ahead. There is only being. And in being, everything you need is already present in the geometry of the moment. Think about a seed. A seed doesn't try to become a tree. It doesn't stress about the distance between the soil and the sun. The seed simply contains the geometry of the tree. As long as it stays in alignment with its own internal blueprint, the tree is inevitable. You are the same. You contain the geometry of your highest self, your exalted form. You don't need to build that person. You just need to stop building the obstacles that prevent that person from emerging. Stop drawing the walls of "I can't." Stop sketching the ceilings of "it's too late." Just be the seed. Trust the geometry of your own evolution. As we move toward this deeper understanding, the very structure of our physical world begins to soften. You might start to notice glitches in your reality. Synchronicities that shouldn't be possible. The way a person you were just thinking about suddenly calls you. The way a book falls off a shelf and opens to the exact page you needed to read. These are not accidents. These are moments where your internal geometry and the external geometry of the world have clicked into place. It's like two gears finally catching. The more you live from the center, the more these alignments happen. Until eventually, your entire life becomes a continuous flow of meaningful coincidences. You stop doing and start being done. You become a vessel through which the universe expresses its own infinite symmetry. This is the state the Taoists called Wu-Wei effortless action. It is the state of being so perfectly aligned with the geometry of the Tao that you move without moving. You accomplish everything by doing nothing. Because you are no longer fighting the space, you are the space. Imagine a surfer on a massive wave. If the surfer tries to fight the wave's geometry, they will be crushed. But if they understand the curve, the speed, and the flow, they become part of the wave. They use the wave's own energy to move. Your life is the wave. Your consciousness is the surfer. The geometry of the universe is not your enemy. It is your medium. It is the clay you are here to play with. So, as you go back into the world of shapes and sizes, keep a part of yourself in the void. Keep a part of your awareness in that silent, dimensionless point where all things begin. When you feel the walls closing in, remember the breath. Remember the observer. Look at the space between the objects. Look at the silence between the words. Remind yourself, I am not the shape, I am the space that holds the shape. This simple shift in perspective is the most radical act of rebellion possible in a world that wants you to stay small. It is the ultimate jailbreak from the simulation of lack. You are a master architect who fell asleep in your own building. It is time to wake up. It is time to look at the blueprints again. It is time to realize that the doors were never locked. In fact, there were never any doors at all. There was only the thought of a door. And you can think a new thought. You can draw a new horizon. The universe is waiting for you to decide what shape you want to be today. Expand. Flow. Dissolve. Become the infinite space that you have always been. The geometry is yours. The space is yours. The awakening is now.